All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today is Friday, November 30th, and this is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. Let's go straight towards our 113 tasks. So first item is the secret logging. I believe Patrick has a new PR out in the new CSI libutils repo. Why is my mouse broken? All right. So I think, let's see, Saad had a few comments, and it seems like Patrick has addressed them.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and get that merged then.
Once we get this merged, then we need to open up PRs in all of the sidecar containers to use the new library. Let's see, let me put this here. We need to update the sidecar containers. I think I can handle this if no one else wants to. And then once we update all the sidecar containers, then I think we are closer to being able to cut releases. Maybe we can go down the status of each of the sidecar containers and see if they're ready besides this. So Shane, can you give an update on Snapshotter?
Yeah, we called the RC4. That is ready.
Okay. So this is ready minus the secrets. Jan, do you have an update on external attacher?
I fixed everything I know about except the secrets.
Okay. Luis, do you have an update on external provisioner?
No, I thought we were waiting until today to decide when we're going to cut it.
So okay.
There's no updates for any of these 3 of 4, actually.
All right.
For external provisioner, there is a breaking change that we are proposing. I don't know if David's on the line, but we can walk through it. It's external provisioner. Let me put the link in. Oops. So this is a proposal to, so number 178, so currently the external provisioner has a set of parameters that it uses that are kind of special to it. They're all prefixed with CSI. So it's like CSI, provisioner, secret name, CSI, blah, 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 secret name. So there's 2 changes in this PR. One is that there's a parameter called FS type that we don't prefix with CSI. And that's pretty ugly because we special case it. So what the external provisioner does is it takes the value of FS type if you specify it, and then it translates it into CSI and passes it in as a CSI value. So one change is to try and fix that by introducing a new parameter called CSI FS type and use that as the main parameter to set the FS type for CSI. And we want to deprecate the old FS type parameter, but deprecation policy and everything, we don't want to break anything. So the proposal here is that we're going to allow both. If you specify both, then it's going to error and say, please use the new one. If you specify the new one, everything is good. If you specify the old one, we're going to also allow it. Now, there's another change that we want to make, which is anything prefixed with the CSI key should be stripped from the parameters before being sent to the create volume request. The reason is that anything prefixed with CSI should only be interpreted by the sidecar container, by the external provisioner, and the external provisioner will basically translate that into a proper CSI parameter. So for example, for a secret, it goes and fetches the secret and sets the secret field appropriately. And then for FS type, it will go ahead and set the appropriate CSI FS type field. So anything prefixed with CSI currently is getting passed through even though it's being translated. So it gets both translated and passed through. And the breaking change that's being proposed here is to stop passing it through and only pass it through via CSI, not as an opaque parameter. That way, the drivers don't get confused when they receive a parameter. They're like, what the heck is this CSI, whatever? I never asked for this. So we kind of have a clean break between the parameters that are required by the external provisioner, and they will be used by the external provisioner, and then they'll be stripped out by the external provisioner. And the parameters that the driver gets are only the things that the driver cares about. And what this allows the driver to do is to fail if it gets something it doesn't understand or whatever it wants to do, basically. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have one. You're talking about there is a collision, sounds like, in the storage class map string.
Not necessarily yet, but potentially there could be with the FS type thing, because FS type is not prefixed. So
well, exactly. If I wanted to have my own, if I already had my own by chance key that conflicted with the CSI one, then there is a collision.
Yes.
So I feel that probably this change, it's probably not the right one. I feel that the right change is in the storage class. And the storage class needs to have a CSI section and a driver section. Because if not, we're going to have collisions from now on.
Well, I mean, the proposal here is a little bit lighter weight in that we're proposing the provision basically just whitelists a set of things to say, these are mine. You can do whatever else you want, but anything prefixed with CSI is mine.
I don't disagree. I agree. I understand where you're going, and I see the direction. But this doesn't fix the issue. This just makes it so that it makes it not confusing in the next version. But even if we fix the issue later, there will also be another breaking change, right? So what I'm asking is that, could we just go to the one that fixes the collision problem?
Adding anything new to the storage class field is like a 3-quarter project. You have to go through alpha, beta, GA, and we would not be able to do it this quarter. So if we were to do that, the earliest we could get it in would be Q1, and then it would have to GA by Q3 of next year. So realistically, the ship has sailed on that option.
Well, I think that maybe we can get that started, because if not, we're going to have collisions as we go forward.
Then can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Then would the idea be to stop using CSI provisioner secrets? Because then if we continue to use it in this way in 3 quarters, if we were to change the storage class, then we'd still have we'd have 2 ways to do it. And we would have to then spend another year deprecating CSI provisioner secrets if we could deprecate it at all. But like right now, we're already kind of special casing CSI prefixed parameters. Like, this is something that we're already doing with the secrets. Right now, I think this change is just adding to that.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you guys. I understand where you're going. You have namespaced your keys by prefixing them with CSI, right? And I understand it. And luckily, there's no vendor yet that has done that. But if there was a vendor that wanted to use that key, right, then there would be a collision. That's what I'm trying to say. That you have, or we say from now on, CSI prefixed keys belong to Kubernetes, right?
I think that's the pragmatic option, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
it's the path of least resistance. We already do it, and we need to formalize it and say this, anything prefixed with CSI is reserved for the CSI sidecar container. If you intend to use the CSI sidecar container, the external provisioner, then you must accept that the CSI prefix keys are reserved for the provisioner only.
Yeah. Then
Don't want that limitation, then you can write your own sidecar container or just write your own driver completely.
Yeah, and I like that we specify the CSI as a prefix. Now, my suggestion on that is, can we use like the annotation style where we have like a
Kubernetes.io /
Yes, yeah, and then that makes it very clear that like this is a.
We could, but the problem is we already do CSI prefix, and we need to figure out what the transition story would be if we did that.
Well, you could do it for this one to get started, right? And then you can transition the other ones.
So we already have like 3 or 4 parameters that are CSI prefixed. So if we would need to figure out what to do with those if we were to introduce yet another prefix that is special.
Well, okay. What I'm trying to say is that we should make it. This is a long-term plan. What I'm trying to propose, and that you're already starting to make a change right now. If we agree on the long-term plan, then the ones, it's only the secrets right now that have the prefix, as far as I know. But we could change the secrets to be able to do that also.
Does the CSI spec itself define?
The parameters are opaque.
Yeah.
Is this being introduced in provisioner version 1.0?
Yes.
Is there a concern then to have a break and change?
Yes. Which is why we want to make sure that whatever we do minimizes the possibility of breaking existing drivers. So I think the FS type thing is the biggest risk. So we are being very careful there and maintaining backwards compatibility with the old key as we move forward with the new key.
Sorry, I guess I don't understand why we need to worry about breaking change here if we're going to 1.0.
Technically, we shouldn't have to, but we don't need to needlessly break drivers. This is the same reason that we ended up adding 0.3 support in 1.13. Technically, yes, we're doing a completely new version, but you can't expect folks to switch over to the new driver or the new version like immediately. But arguably, if they are rewriting their driver for 1.0, they're going to have to pick up a new sidecar container and pair it with an existing driver. So they're going to have to make a change anyway.
The storage process may not be updated. That's the problem.
I think the general guidance that I've been hearing is that there should be at least one version where both work.
Yes.
So that in that version, you have a lot of time to switch between the two, and then the next version we deprecate the old one, and so like it's a clean switch instead of a breaking one.
Well, so I agree with that. With when you have like a Kubernetes release where you have a Kubernetes new version that's rolled out and it can break things that are already deployed. With the sidecar containers, it's a little bit different in that if you have a new version of Kubernetes, we made it so that your existing driver can continue to work. Your 0x driver is going to work on 1.13. As long as you continue to deploy your 0x driver, everything is happy. When you choose to deploy a 1.0 driver, you need to go to your vendor and get a 1.0 driver. The vendor, in order to build a 1.0 driver, needs to pair it with a sidecar container. In order to do that, they're going to have to select which sidecar container they pick. If they're picking up this sidecar container, we can say, hey, by the way, if you pick this sidecar container, you need to be aware of X, Y, and Z, which are different from previous releases of the sidecar container. And when they're putting it together, they can address those changes. And then when the user goes to deploy it, it's seamless as far as the user is concerned. I think we might have more ability to make breaking changes on the sidecar containers if that's the case.
But the objects are separate. If you have like 1,000 storage classes, for example, all with the CSI secret, how would that change? Somebody needs to go ahead and change those.
That's a fair point. If you're requiring them to change their storage class between a 0.3 and a 1.0 deployment, that is, yeah, that's definitely on the user's cluster. That's fair.
Yeah, so it'd be nicer if in 1.0 we support both, but tell them to switch. So then they can upgrade to 1.0. Their old storage class still works, but like while they're using 1.0, they can then bring down their storage class and bring up a new one with CSI in preparation for like 1.1 or something where we might be able to get FS type. So there is.
That makes perfect sense for me for the FS type transition. But going back to what Luis was proposing, which is a new first class like reserved prefix, which is like more like a traditional namespace. If we do that, then we're basically expanding the scope of things we could potentially be breaking. And what I'm worried about is if we do that, then we, instead of changing just FS type, we're also changing CSI, all the secret stuff. And in 2 releases, when we say, okay, those CSI whatever are deprecated, we're much more likely to have more issues because we're deprecating more fields.
I don't know. I just feel that you have to deprecate FS type sometime.
Yes.
So you could say like, look, we're moving to this prefix at this time, and all our CSI, you don't have to just say FS type, but all CSI things are moving to that prefix, and that's okay, right? And then that way it looks just like annotations to people using storage class.
I think that's fine then. Let's do that. So we'll say the new prefix, we need to decide what that is, probably csi.kubernetes.io/.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And then whatever the name is, and anything that is prefixed with that will necessarily be consumed by the provisioner and will be stripped out and will not be passed through to the driver. The existing first class fields that we have, which were kind of like didn't really decide what we were going to do, which include FS type and the CSI secret parameters, we will continue to allow them. If both the old field and the new field are specified, then we fail and say you can't do that. You need to specify one or the other. And if you specify the new one, everything is happy and it gets stripped out. If you specify the old one, existing behavior continues, which is we'll pass it through to the CSI driver because that's the existing behavior, it's compatible. And in essence, this doesn't become a breaking change. It becomes backwards compatible. And we can just document the crap out of it and say, here, these are the fields that you should be using. These are deprecated fields. You should not be using them. Then we need to decide if we're ever actually going to deprecate it. My feeling is if we're not going to deprecate it now, we're not going to be able to deprecate it ever.
Yeah, we can deprecate it now. I wouldn't mind, just like others have said here, like, one version does both.
I don't think we can do that because, like, if somebody's doing this with one of their storage classes already, their storage, it'll just break.
Oh, you're saying that like if they have 1,000 storage classes with this.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like
so this would affect Snapshotter as well because we also use secrets. So if you change the prefix.
Snapshotter also uses prefixes. Is it the same secret prefix?
Yes.
Are there any other special prefixes?
That's it.
Okay.
I think Attacher also has it.
Attacher doesn't have any storage class.
No, but the secrets are taken from it.
No, they are taken from the PV.
But I thought the PV
The PV just has its own name. It's like a different name that's completely independent of this conversation.
Okay. So the provisioner is the one that looks at all the secrets and puts them all in the PV. Okay.
Yeah, so both the provisioner for the snapshotter and the provisioner for the volume.
Got it. Should we?
I agree that it's the right thing to do is to have a proper namespace, but we're going to then have to make that change in both the external provisioner and here in the regular provisioner.
Let's do this. Let's not make a decision today. Let's think about it over the weekend and we'll convene on Monday.
We kind of need to because we need to cut the official containers by Monday. Where the official 1.13 release goes out on Tuesday, so
I would say let's not do this for 1.13. We're breaking something here. This is changing things.
Yeah, I guess if we do it in the backwards compatible way, which is proposed, we could do it in a future release of the sidecar containers.
Yeah.
But essentially, what that means is that the existing behavior will have to continue indefinitely forever.
Yeah. This is what this PR was doing anyway, right? In a way.
No, this PR was going to actually break the existing behavior to stop passing in anything prefixed with CSI.
No, I mean, let me restate what I'm saying. This change still supported the old FS type.
This one would have broken the secrets in that if you are relying on, for example, CSI provisioner secrets in your parameters on create volume, those would no longer be there. But if I understand correctly, the thing that we may want to do now is to continue passing those through, create an entire new set of csi.kubernetes.io/parameters, which almost duplicate the old ones. And for those ones, we strip out all of those from parameters and we use them. And so like I've kind of captured it in the document. I wrote down as much as I could. If you want to switch that, I think I've captured what we talked about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we're going to do it, let's just do it now. There's going to be a lot of documentation that's going to get created. I would rather that documentation get created with this new concept rather than like go out right now with a bunch of documentation with something that's going to be deprecated. And David, how do you feel about making this change today, timeline-wise?
No answer.
It is pretty tight, and I think honestly that's the biggest factor of whether we should put it off or not.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. I said it should be fine.
Okay. We also need to make a similar change in external snapshotter. Would you be able to make that change as well?
I'm most familiar with the provisioner. I'll probably just have time to pick that up. I have quite a bit of other stuff to do. So maybe
Could you help make a similar change on the external snapshotter?
If David has some examples, I can look at his changes and then make changes similarly.
Definitely.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Yeah, I'll get mine out as early as possible and I'll send it to you.
But I don't, because I'm Eastern time, so probably going to be like later today when I get it, and then I don't know if we have time to get that merged today though. I mean,
I see. Well, you can also just look at the PR that already is out. Has like most of these ideas. It just doesn't use the other new prefix that we haven't actually decided on yet. So, but like I think most of it's pretty similar. So you should take a look at that.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I will talk to Jean as well so that she can, once I make a change, she can review it.
Let's go ahead with these changes today. If it ends up like being way more work than we expected, or suddenly it blows up and you don't have time, that's fine. We can reassess on Monday and hold back these PRs and push them out in a future release. It would be very nice to get them in this release, but don't kill yourselves to get it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So in general, we have a consensus with what David wrote here.
Yeah.
Oh, and is there another change that is needed to get in today? Is it a secret? Is it Michelle is going to that or
Yes.
is this okay?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
External provisioner, and then driver registrar has.
For external provisioner, we also need to make sure and cherry pick all the necessary changes to.
Yeah, I believe Xing already did that.
Yeah, I already picked everything. Is that yesterday or the day before yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
we can take another look at it when we do the cherry picks for these PRs
All right.
to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Yeah. Oops. All right. Next are the two node and cluster driver registrars.
How far along are these, Luis?
Oh, I have the PRs waiting and ready.
Okay.
The PRs actually on my section for that part. I put them there. There's another section.
And in terms of usability, is it are they just copying over the driver registrar code right now, or what's the status?
It's just yeah, it's pretty much just driver registrar on change code. Just
Okay, so
rearrange.
basically what we need done is for these PRs to merge, and then we need new PRs to go in that whittle down each of them to their respective pieces.
No, I mean no. That's what the PRs are.
Oh, they already do this.
Yeah, and there's PR1 for each repo, number one.
Oh, perfect.
And all we need to do is once that PR is ready, I just cut the release and cut the container.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Okay. All right, in that case, I'll go ahead and review those and get those merged. And then we can officially begin the deprecation process of driver registrar.
Yep.
So what we need to do is transfer over the any outstanding PRs on driver registrar, basically close them and say reopen them on in this new
Yeah, I can do that for issues and the PRs. I'll take care of that.
PRs, yeah. And then for anything where it looks like we really should pick this up, just create the PR yourself or create the issue yourself on the other side so we don't drop anything by accident when the owner doesn't respond.
Yeah, I can do it over the weekend. That's no big deal.
Okay.
Let's see. And do we need the secret stuff on here too? I mean, this doesn't really
What secret stuff?
use secrets, but I guess we should just do it anyway.
Yeah, I think
It doesn't have access to secrets. That's right. Oh, secret logging? There's no secrets here.
I know, but we should do it anyway.
Do what? What do you need to do?
We should import the RPC logging library that strips out the secrets.
it's a generic library that looks for this decorator field, and if the decorator field exists, it'll go ahead and strip it. So even though this code doesn't necessarily do it, we should just do the right thing.
Well, okay, so this is why I'm asking, because right now, driver registrar, sorry, node registrar and cluster registrar both have a package called that connects. It's the copied package. They both have exactly the same thing, and both that stuff needs to go into a common repo. Okay.
Okay.
So
connection code.
Yeah, so I think that's another item we can take on later. So we have a new common utils repo now, and I think all the connection stuff that all of these sidecars do can go there.
Yeah.
Perfect. And yeah, so yeah, I mean, feel free to send the PR for that. That's no big deal. I'm just saying that
one last thing, I see that Vlad sent out a refactor connection with retries and backoffs. Vlad, is this to address the driver registrar slowness in connecting? Is Vlad on call? Yes. Vlad, you might be on mute.
Okay.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Oh, can you hear that?
You're really quiet.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Hello?
There we go.
There you
are. Okay. Yeah, something's going on. Yeah, so that's an attempt to address what's going on with the connection.
Oh, so that means that that code needs to go into both.
Well, if we do the common util that Michelle was just mentioning,
Well, I
could
don't
go there.
think.
That's longer term.
Yeah, we won't be able to do it for this
All right.
cut.
Yeah. No problem. So we can either try to get that one in first and then, and then backtrack, or I can wait for Lewis to get the split in, and then go back and
Yeah,
and
the
put it
split's
in there.
really, it's ready. It's super simple. So it's just,
Mhm.
you know, as soon as that's in, you can.
How confident are you in this code, Vlad?
I'd like to get some. I'm confident that it works. Whether or not it solved the problem as specified, I'd like for somebody to take a look and try to put it through its pace.
Okay.
Basically, what it does is it basically attempts several times to connect
Mhm.
right away, or with backup back off in between, and then finally gives up. And then when it gives up, the container fails and then gets restarted again by Kubernetes.
Got it. So maybe let's hold off on
Yeah.
this until our next release of the sidecars, and we can just do the whole library thing and have this code imported by the library, have everybody use it. Because I don't want to check this in last minute and then have it destabilize the driver registrar.
I agree.
And right now it's ugly that there's a 1 minute delay, but it's workable. And it doesn't happen in all cases. It happens sometimes. So I'm okay holding this off until the next release. And then my second question is for Luis. Luis, two things. One is, how confident are you that in splitting up this code that we haven't destabilized anything?
I have not done an E2E test with it, but
Okay.
I can say that I have not changed any code from the driver registrar. So that's the confident level I have right now.
Okay, so how about we get your PRs merged and you use the sidecars generated by those containers to update the end-to-end tests and run them locally to get a feel for how confident you are.
Perfect.
And if you're confident, we move forward with your repos and your new sidecars. If you are not, then we will move forward. We'll just keep the old repo. So basically on Monday, we decide whether we deprecate the old repo now or not.
Perfect. And there's a way to test the E2E with local cluster or not?
Yes, so you could do local cluster and you run the host path end-to-end tests.
Okay.
And the only thing you need to do is modify the host path YAML files to point to whatever container you want them to use. So you could modify them to use your container.
Oh yeah, that's easy. That's easy.
Yeah, and that should do it. That will help exercise the node driver registrar. The cluster driver registrar
is not exercised.
Yeah. So that's okay. I think that's just status quo. And if someone really has an issue with either of these, they could theoretically just fall back to the versions that we have. I'm wondering if we could delay the splitting up of the repo.
Well, I mean, we can split it up and change and fix it right now, and
I
then
think we should just check it in now.
Yes,
and we can test it and make sure
right.
if it works, then we release it. If it doesn't work, then
that's fair. Okay, so let's do that. Let's proceed with. I'll go ahead and LGTM your PR, Luis.
Yeah.
You go ahead and get those sidecars generated and end-to-end test them.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And then if you're confident, you can give us a signal on Monday. And in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get the secret PRs in the right places. We'll have all three repos. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if I just create a PR in Kubernetes and it runs the E2E test automatically, wouldn't that do it also?
Kubernetes is using the stable versions. I guess you can modify Kubernetes to point to canary versions and then run that. Yeah.
and then mark the PR as work in progress.
Yeah.
The problem is the PR builder doesn't run all the tests,
It should, the host path ones will run at least,
the positive ones.
yeah. It
Yeah.
should be good enough.
Okay. I mean, you can try that. And if you find a way, you can just run them locally too as extra sanity check.
Sure. Perfect.
All right, cool. So that sounds like a plan. And driver registrar. So two things I wanted to ask you. One was stability, and second, when did you basically branch? I want to make sure that any changes that went into driver registrar after you branched are part of the new code as well.
That's a good question. I can confirm. I made the repos on Wednesday based on Wednesday's driver registrar.
Okay, and let me take a real quick glance at the pull requests that have merged since.
And I have not branched anything on the node cluster.
Okay, looks like the last change was 10 days ago, and there haven't been any PRs that went in since. So if you did it on Wednesday this week, you should be fine.
Okay, good.
But if any other of these pending PRs go in, we need to keep an eye on that.
Yep, no problem.
All right, so I think we're in a good place there. Thanks, Luis.
No
All
problem.
right. Last is Liveness Probe. That's basically ready to go, except we should do the secret logging. Okay. So that's all our sidecars. What do we have next?
Flaky subpath test.
Yes, flaky subpath test. So, I basically, I think I theorized that we actually have 4 different issues here. So we have 4 different bugs open to address the flaky tests. I have, I think Vlad is working on the driver registrar connection issue. Saad is looking into fixing the volume manager throttling. I am working on changing the tests to not use events. And then Masaki is working on changing the test to actually wait for the driver to be registered before proceeding. So I think we made a comment there. We probably want to wait on this until CSI node info is beta, and then the test can check CSI node info for driver registration.
Yep, that would be the best way of doing it.
Yeah. But I think it looks like out of like all the fixes that we have here, the ones that are most likely to get in to Kubernetes soon are the my fix to fix the test. Saad, do you think your fix is ready to go yet, or do you need to do more stuff there?
I think I want to do more stuff with it. It could probably be used as is and just fix the existing issue. But I probably want to add it. Looks like Jordan commented and said it might be worth picking up for 113.1. So most likely it'll go on 113.1.
Okay. Yeah, I think my test fix is actually like just sitting. It's been sitting in the submit queue for like a day now. It will eventually go in.
Are they gonna make it for 13.0 or they're not cherry picking anymore?
I don't think. I don't know.
I guess it's a test fix. We could cherry pick it whenever.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see. All right. Okay. Now this one, splitting this up. We just discussed this, so it should be ready to go. Next is syncing the host path driver YAMLs.
Yeah, that's something I'm working on.
All right. This is still in progress?
Yeah, that's definitely in progress. And there was a PR, I think yesterday, that got merged already, and basically it brought over the YAML.
It copied the YAML from the E2E test to the hostpath repo.
Yeah, so basically now hostpath has its own set of YAMLs right in the project. And then the next step is to update the documentation to point to the proper YAMLs.
So one thing I wanted to do there was we have a longer term project to split up that drivers repo. We already have the new repos created for CSI driver host path, CSI driver iSCSI, blah, 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 blah. But we never got around to actually doing the split. So now what I'm concerned about is if we make this change now to have the end-to-end test pick up from the drivers repo, we're going to have to make another change in the future when we do the split up. Should we? Yeah.
I think before we update the end-to-end test to pull from the repos, we should do this change. But I think right now it's just copying the YAMLs.
He already did that. So he already copied the YAMLs over. They exist on the host path side. They're just not being used by anyone.
Yeah.
So maybe the next step would be to actually go and split this thing up. It's definitely a P2, Vlad, but would you be interested in starting working on that?
Just split up the drivers?
Yeah. So if you look at the drivers today, they're all stuck in a single repository.
Correct.
And they have some shared code. So what you could do is put the shared code under, I think there's like a CSI lib, I forget what the repo name is, but you could put the shared code there. And then each one of the drivers has its own repository now. So you could basically move each one over one by one. You could start with just the host path one because that's the one that we care about the most.
Right.
And you could in fact do it without even like having a shared library. You could just copy their code and then do the shared library part later.
Yeah.
And then now you have the host path in its own repo, and we can do a special release for the host path driver. And then we can do the same thing for the rest of the drivers as well, and then deprecate the drivers repo.
And you want to do that in 113?
We can do it independent of 113. It doesn't need to go in now. We could do it over the holidays if you have time. We can do it early next quarter. It's definitely a P2. It's something we want to do eventually. It's not blocking anything, but it's like, we should do this. We've been sitting on it for a while.
I just wanted to make sure you didn't want that to happen by Monday so I can
No, definitely not. Whenever you have time, it's a P2. I think since you're already working on this, kind of before you...
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess just to make sure we're all up to date, we still have one outstanding item to have the docs point to this.
Okay.
Yes. So that would have to happen first, and then once the drivers split up the doc, it would make sense to point to update the docs. Then,
basically, remove any host path YAML from the docs and just point to this as like the source of truth.
That's what I'd like to see. Yes.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Awesome. Let's see. Next is updating the images we use in the E2E to use the Quay images and not the GKE ones. I think we can probably do this once we cut official releases for all the sidecars. Right?
Yeah. This is also like a P2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in yellow there. I thought I confirmed that they were all there.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, at least all the tags are there with 1.0. So.
Yeah, but the images may not have been pushed. Is that right? Anyway, we'll have to like re-push everything again when we cut official releases.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. All right. Next is updating our docs.
I haven't started on this.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Let's do like QCon. Sit down with a beer and then start fixing them.
All right. I think, okay, we talked about external snapshotter already.
Yeah. I don't know if we need to track this anymore.
Yeah, I think this is done.
Yeah.
This is done.
Xing, how confident are you in the current snapshotter code? And do you believe these, like the GCE driver has been updated adequately to handle CSI 1.0?
I don't know about GCE driver. I tested with our OpenSDS driver.
Okay.
So, but it only works with 1.13 beta.2 because there is some that's the attach. There are some changes in external attacher.
Mm-hmm.
So Jan fixed a bug there.
So I was thinking, since we're making breaking changes, it might be worthwhile to put together another blog post just to say, hey, snapshotting still exists. It's still in alpha. We made these breaking changes in preparation for, or, to pick up CSI 1.0 and in preparation for beta, hopefully soon. Would you and Jing be interested in putting something together there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We can definitely work on that.
Let me send out a message to the Kubernetes IO folks and see if they are willing to pick up. I want 3 blog posts, one for CSI, one for block devices, and I want to see if I could do a third one on Snapshot. So I'll see if they'll let us do 3. In terms of priority, CSI will be the highest priority, block will be 2, and this will be 3rd. So if I get confirmation from them, I'll reach out to you to put that together.
Okay, sure.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Next is the CSI test versioning issue. Did we resolve this yet?
No, I have to fix that. That's on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I have to step out. I have to get ready for the next meeting.
All right,
Okay.
sounds good. I think we're like basically done. So the remaining
release
stuff.
notes are good.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, we have to do the release notes for the external, but we'll do that when we do the cut.
Yeah. And everything else here is just the done list.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all we have for today.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, take care, guys. Have a great weekend.
Happy Friday.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.